My name's Carl Hinder and you're listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast, the podcast for salon and spa owners who are looking to grow. The only thing stopping you is you. Welcome to episode 11. Episode 11 is about consistency. Now, it doesn't matter if you are a hair salon or a barbershop or a clinic or a cafe or a chip shop, it doesn't really matter, but consistency in your business is paramount. Now, it's kind of like the holy grail, if you like. The businesses that achieve it seem to do very, very well, and the ones that don't achieve it or have low levels of achievement when it comes to consistency absolutely totally struggle. Now, from a coaching point of view, I see that with some of my clients, and it's one of the things that we work on all the time. And this is a huge business killer, and it's huge for all businesses. As an example, I was out in the mid Wales, the Brecon Beacons last summer, and I was out on the motorbike, and after a couple of hours, you know what it's like, guys. You build up a bit of an appetite, and I found this absolutely amazing cafe. So I went in there, full breakfast, of course, a bit of a treat, and it was so good, I noted everything. It's a bit of a side effect, really, of being a business coach, but I kind of noted everything. And I even texted a few of my mates and said, listen, we've got to get back here, guys. The next time we're in the mountains, we've got to stop here. It's a great start to the day. Well, as it turns out, a few months later, I managed to drag them all back to the same venue. However, I was preparing them for a great breakfast with all these wonderful things that I told them about. And it wasn't great. It was embarrassing, guys. I did look a little bit, foolish, a little bit stupid, a little bit daft, because I had, praised this place. Now, the staff were the main problem, because they just weren't interested. They were disinterested in us. They weren't energetic. They weren't friendly. They just simply didn't care. And when we were trying to order, they didn't have everything available. The food was cold, and look, it was just what I would call a shambles. Now, clearly before, the food was fresh, everyone was energized, and whilst it hadn't changed hands or anything, that's how it felt. It just felt as if I'd gone to two different places. Look, it goes without saying that the four of us essentially vowed to never return. Now, it doesn't matter that this was a cafe, because this had happened to me, or has happened to me, my whole life in barbershops and hairdressers that I visited. Sometimes you go there and the cut is good, sometimes it's not as good, sometimes it's finished, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get a neck shave, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get it shampooed, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they use clippers, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get product advice, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it gets shampooed, sometimes it gets sprayed. And these can be the same businesses. Now, I'm not saying all those examples existed in any one barbershop or hairdressers that I've ever visited, but you get the idea. There's even a small story in the book, the E-Myth Revisited. Michael E. Gerber, I think, is the author. And he talks about 3 visits to one barbershop. Now, none of those visits were essentially bad, but they were all different. And at the end of the 3rd visit, he decided, I shan't return. And the reason he didn't return is because he wasn't sure of what he was going to get. It was inconsistent. He couldn't be, he didn't feel as if he could guarantee a certain standard. And in a way, there's a lack of respect for the client if it's a bit of a lottery, right? Every time you turn up at your barbershop or your hairdressers or your skin clinic or your nail bar, doesn't matter. This is the essence of business. I'm glad you're listening, because this is probably your business as well. And in my opinion, inconsistency in the service is the number one reason why clients leave your business. It's not pricing. It's nothing special. It's about what they're getting cannot be relied upon. So you got to think about it like this. Why do you think a client wants to stick to one therapist or one hairdresser? Now, this isn't all businesses, by the way. I'm talking about your business. And it's mainly because what they get to get as a guarantee is consistency. if I stay with that one person, it's going to be very similar to last time. Now, of course, I understand that there are personalities involved in the interaction between the client and the service provider, the hairdresser or the therapist. But the main reason that clients leave you is because of inconsistency. And that's also the same reason why when a therapist or a technician leaves you, that sometimes the client follows them. It's because you haven't built a brand where they can rely on other people. So let's be honest here. The chances are your salon is very, very much like this. And if you are honest, you'll be able to say to yourself, yep, sure, Carl, that's the same in my business because I've never really trained them all to be the same with everything. I mean, even the simple things like having a welcome message. Do you all, everyone in your team, welcome in the same way? Do you use the same sentence? Do your team know what they should or shouldn't be talking about? Now, I'm not talking about the service skill, as in this is the facial I'm about to do for you. What are they supposed to talk about when they aren't doing the treatment? Maybe nothing at all, of course. What if they're on the back of a chair? Maybe they're a hairdresser or a barber. What should they be talking about? What shouldn't they be talking about? What subjects should they be avoiding? What about the consultations? Are they all documented? Does every therapist do the same version of a consultation, or do they all do their own based on experience? Based on experience from their previous businesses. Now we have a real mishmash of experience delivering different levels of service. The same with consultations for the hairdressing sector. Are we using experience to do it? Are we using memory? How can we remember the exact same process from one client to another, or even from one visit to another when it comes to consultations? And there are many, many examples where you've got to make sure the consistency starts to kind of show up in your business. And the examples are everywhere, of course. So take the shampooing process. Which product should they be using? Which order? How long should it take? How warm should the water be? What should they be talking about? Etc., etc. What about retailing? What should we be saying to the client? When should we be saying it? What should we say at the front of house? When we get to the reception desk, what is the closing sentence? What about the rebooking? Should we be doing retail first or rebooking first? And it goes on and on and on. Now, here's the crux to the podcast, and here's your warning, if you like. If at any point during this podcast you have said to yourself, but Carl, I'm dealing with creative people. Now, this is going to be more true maybe on the beauty side, the nail side, or the hairdressing side, a bit less, hopefully, on the clinical side. If you're catching yourself saying that, you've already given up on the principle of consistency, because you are basically saying that, depending on their experience from other businesses, I want them to bring that in and change whatever they want to change. But how can you create a word of mouth process if one person, like the cafe I went to, one person experiences something and then they pass on that message and then the next person experiences something completely different? Now, just look at other brands. Look at BMW, say, or Apple or McDonald's, okay? And you would expect the same from each of those brands each time you interacted with them. So if you bought a BMW, you would expect the next BMW to be the same. You know that your Apple iPhone will be as reliable or ahead of technology, just like your last one was. And you know that whether you visit McDonald's in Cardiff or Carlisle, that the standards of food and the standards of service are going to be very, very similar. And they always get it. They always have consistency at the focus, at the front of their business. I just had a thought on that consistency basis versus the creativity. One of the most famous brands in our industry is Vidal Sassoon. And Vidal Sassoon never allowed his stylists, his trainees and directors to be creative, in the sense that there was always a standard that they had to abide by. And it's the same these days. There's a guideline for Sassoon haircuts that all hairdressers have to follow. And I think that's the model that you have to get to if you're going to be successful. When I'm coaching salons, we're working on anything from retail to pricing or staff targets to marketing. But the thing that trumps them all, or the common thread, if you like, is being consistent. Being consistent within all of those disciplines is paramount to what you're going to do. And when people are trying to spend money on more courses, now I'm talking courses like coloring courses or more nail courses, or maybe even on the clinical side, more skin courses or something like that, you will be better off focusing on the consistency of your operation. Now, that doesn't mean letting every day pass you by. It means actively looking in a constructive way with your team. How do we deliver the standard? Now, you've got to lay the standard out to start with, haven't you? So you lay the standard out and then you work relentlessly to make sure it's achieved. If you don't know where to start, I call it a blueprint when I'm coaching my clients. If you don't know where to start with your blueprint, that's okay, guys. Just reach out to me. You can email me on info@salon-help.co.uk and we can do some work on the blueprint. But you have to know your salon standards, and what you really have to do is be consistently good, I should say, in your operation. And that's all for this week. Thank you for listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast. Please take a look on the show notes and have a look at the links that will help you develop your business. Please subscribe when you're there and let other salon owners know that they can join me here every Sunday to help and develop their business. Take care, guys. I'll catch you all on the next episode.